Good day, folks, and welcome to another edition of Lumberjack Logic. I'm your host, Neil Johnson, and the Democrats have officially lost. I'm serious, they have lost. They're losing in perpetuity. Let me explain what I mean by that. In the shutdown battle, there is not one key metric on which the Democrats are winning. So you can look at all the polling, and it's matching up very similarly. I don't care if you want to look at the New York Times Siena poll, the Harvard-Harris poll. We're going to look at those numbers. We're going to talk about that, but what I first want you to watch is this, because the Democrats have owned the media. Now with new media, like yours truly, Lumberjack Logic, who you all love so much, here's the thing. With people like us reporting on the news and doing this at a more frequent rate, it's forcing mainstream networks to actually cover real news, and the Democrats are losing their grip on the media narrative. They don't have it anymore. It's why all these organizations like CNN are losing money, and then CNN has to actually start covering real news. Check this out.
About Donald Trump shutdowns, net approval rating, we're talking 20 days into it. In 2018/2019, Donald Trump's net approval rating was already falling. The shutdown was eating into his popular support. It was down 3 points already at this particular point and would fall considerably more. It was very much on the decline. You come over to this side of the screen, this shutdown hasn't eaten into Donald Trump's support at all. His net approval rating is actually up a point in terms of his popular support. So the bottom line is this. The first shutdown during Trump's first term, 2018-2019, was hurting Donald Trump. This one is not hurting him at all. There's no real reason Donald Trump might say, at least when it comes to popular support, I want to get out of this shutdown.
See what I mean? When they can't completely control the narrative, things start to change. And so now it's being called the Schumer shutdown, not the Trump shutdown. And as a result, there's no need to back off course. And Chuck Schumer is the one on the run. And they don't know what to do because they're not used to this environment where all of a sudden they have to take the blame for the shutdown that every American knows the Democrats are not willing to vote on a clean CR, just funding the government at current levels, which we don't even like. We don't even like that. Okay? So the Republicans are willing to fund the government for the sake of military getting paid and so on, even though we don't actually like what we're voting on.
What about the question of blame?
Yeah, okay. What about the question of blame? Okay, you see Donald Trump's net approval rating was down 2018 to 2019. You talk about 2025 as net approval rating is up. It comes down to the blame game, a game I loved to play when I was younger. Blame Trump for the shutdown a great deal. In 2018/2019, 61%, more than 3 in 5 Americans blame Trump a great deal for that particular shutdown. You come over to this side of the screen, look at this. It's a different world. It's a different world. 48% of Americans blame Trump a great deal for this particular shutdown. So it's more than 3 in 5 back in 2018/2019. It's less than half, a drop of 13 points. Again, it's no real wonder that Donald Trump at this point, looking at the shutdown, says, you know what, it's not actually harming me politically, in large part because he's getting less of the blame.
A 13-point shift from 61% to 48%. That is huge, folks. Before, where he was getting 3 out of 5 voters, over 3 out of 5 voters saying that he was the one to blame for the shutdown. Now it's less than half. Again, lack of media control. One thing we noticed with Rush Limbaugh is he dominated the AM band of radio. He brought life back into that. The Democrats tried to compete. Do you remember this? They tried to come up with their own talk radio, and it all bombed. Why? Because they're not funny. They're not fun to listen to, folks. So it didn't work out well for him. The only thing that they had was control of the airwaves through the television networks and the money that it took to start a new one. Well, now we're seeing that same thing play out in new media space. I don't care if it's YouTube, if it's Rumble, if it's podcasts, whatever it is. Conservatives are dominating that space, bringing in more conservative voters, especially the youth vote, because we're just flat better at this.
And he's doing things differently during this shutdown.
Yes, exactly right. You know, we talk about Donald Trump and you say, okay, he wants to be a consequential, influential president. Well, if the legislative process is basically freezed up, on Capitol Hill, you may say, well, then he can't actually get legislation through. But that's not how Trump is governing in this term. We've spoken about this over and over and over again. He's using his pen.
The Democrats have basically given Trump more power through this shutdown. That's why he's now canning federal workers. And of course, the district judges are stepping in again to put in their TROs. But those will ultimately be defeated at the Supreme Court, because if we don't have an approved budget, we don't have the money, so we can't actually pay the government workers. So of course it makes sense to let them go. But this is why they're losing the shutdown. Stephen Miller nails it. Our country is not being bankrupted by middle-class fixed-income seniors. It's being bankrupted by mass, unskilled, unending global migration. Want an idea to end the debt ceiling? End all benefits for illegals, all welfare for non-citizens, all paths to citizenship for public charges. In other words, folks, stop the nonsense. We saw them getting these Visa cards. We saw all of this. Now they can just show up at emergency rooms, and guess who gets to foot that bill? You and I, and so on, all because of the policies of the Biden administration where they had just an open border, unvetted, unchecked, illegal immigration flowing in, and then they gave them money on top of it through the NGOs. So it wasn't the government actually giving it to them. No, the government gave it to the NGOs to give to them. It's absolute insanity. And now this debate is happening. Also, it's happening over Obamacare, which was subsidized at high levels and was costing us all this money. Remember when your insurance premiums went sky high when Obamacare was first announced? And now we're finding out that because during COVID, they gave it more money. Now that money's fading away, it's going to cost people more money. So the government's been playing this shell game. But this is now posted on the White House's website, folks, where they talk about Americans want Democrats to end their shutdown. Most Americans want Democrats to end their disastrous government shutdown, according to a new Harvard Capps Harris poll. And so you can see the numbers here. The numbers are 65-35, meaning that they should just, 65% of Americans just say, hey, adapt this spending, pass the CR, and move on. And 35% are saying no. Interestingly, a Rasmussen poll came out today, and 54% of Americans say they're good with a partial government shutdown. Why? Because they don't want to fund the illegal alien health care. And so that's now what this debate has become about. It's not just a shutdown, because again, if we did not have, can you imagine if Joe Biden had actually been installed as the president again, or Kamala Harris, what would be going on right now? Because I guarantee you, I would not be communicating to you on this platform because they tried to shut me down multiple times before. I can guarantee you that people would not be as free to post on a lot of platforms. They'd be going the way of the European Union. But as a result, we're able to get our message out. So the key results of this poll are 70% oppose the government shutdown. Okay. Now, 54% in the Rasmussen poll, the way you ask these questions has a big difference because, again, if it's just have a shutdown or adapt the Democrat policies, Americans aren't in favor of that. They would rather us not keep spending at these levels. Everybody knows it's a problem. 65% say Democrats should accept the Republicans' clean, nonpartisan continuing resolution. 62% say Republicans will win the government shutdown. And 55% say Democrats are just trying to please their base. And it sounds like we may actually get a deal now because the No Kings protest is over. That's how pathetic the Democrat Party has become, that they are beholden to a No Kings protest and their base. And the only thing they have right now, this is why they're losing and are going to continue to lose, because the only thing they have is resist Trump, stand up against Trump, fight Trump. That's not what America wants, because America actually voted for Trump. That's what they seem to forget. But check out these numbers from the New York Times Siena poll from September 22nd to 27. Should not shut down the government was still at 65%. The Democrats should not shut down the government until their demands are met. 27% said should. Look at where they're really losing it, though. Independents, 59-32. Republicans are 92-5. The Democrats are the only ones who feel that the Democrats should shut down the government to get their demands met. What's interesting about this number, though, is if you saw in the former poll that I showed you, it was 65-35. This is 65-27 with undecided. The people who are saying they're undecided on the government shutdown in this previous poll were probably all Democrats who tried to play themselves off as independents. So, yeah, that they had actually made up their mind. They were independent-minded Democrats. Let me tell you something. There is no independent mind in the Democrat Party. It is the collective hive mind, if ever I've seen it. One of the challenges we have on the right is that we're constantly disagreeing with each other because we actually have different thoughts and we want to voice those. It's one of the mistakes we make, actually, because we should have those debates in private, but in the public forum, we need to stick together. Okay? Otherwise, that's how the Democrats can consistently, stick together and then actually pull some of these things off. It's not working as well now because, again, they don't control the media like they used to. But Trump has actually done something that no other Republican president has done in my lifetime, which is actually take on a shutdown and win the media narrative, partly because of, this new media people like me. But it's really just because Trump understands media and he does not let them pigeonhole him. He's awesome. I love the guy. I love what he's doing. Hope you do too. Please go check out my sponsor, MyPillow, mypillow.com/lumberjack, or call 1-800-568-2865. Free shipping on your entire order. Get some of those Rev 7 energy drinks. I know you think about them with sleep products, but they're awesome. Anyways, and if you're new, please subscribe. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace out.